This is the first ever edition of the DeWindy City Chicago Bears podcast. That's right. We're going to be in your Bears living room every week, every time the Bears do something. And yes, my name is Mark Carman. Credentials, first ever Bear game, game one, Super Bowl season, Bears 38, Bucks 28, 15-1. Let's go. Sitting in the family section with Papa Fred, Jim McMahon, Walter Payton, Dennis McKinnon, Steve McMichael, Dan Hampton. Yes, I'm a little bit older than perhaps some of you who are watching. And my guy, Patrick Schmidt, my partner in crime, Mr. College Sports, but more importantly for this podcast, diehard Chicago Bears fan. I really enjoyed when we were discussing doing this pod. You're like, well, do we have to do it right after the game? Because I spend Sundays with my family. Like that's basically a holiday in the Schmidt family. Schmidt, I'm very excited to do this with you. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm pumped to do this too, Carm. Lifelong Bears fan, was alive for the 85 Super Bowl team, but not old enough to remember all the memories. So saw the end of Walter Payton, the end of Dan Hampton, the end of Singletary, the end of Ditka. We saw some rough years between then and the most recent Super Bowl appearance. Hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer for the next Super Bowl appearance. 1 year feels like an eternity, but hopefully with Justin Fields under center, hopefully sooner than later, my friend.
That is the fingers crossed. Do we have our quarterback, which is going to be a point of conversation, I think, for the entire, I don't know, offseason 2022. Literally every game, there's probably going to be a do we have him, do we not have him conversation. I know I'm going to be having that conversation, just really looking closely. But let's dive into this offseason. Interesting times. First impressions, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus. Now, the Larry Ogunjobi thing was a general disaster. You had the 3-year deal, $26 million guaranteed, 40 total, and then physical. Oh, we signed a guy, or we're attempting to sign a guy with a Liz Frank injury. He comes in. Larry, well respected in the game. But like right when they did the signing, I'm like, why are you giving big money to a dude who's hurt like that? Don't you want to know on that level of payment that you got a guy that can actually be out there? It's a pretty serious injury, and then it blew up in their face. Not a great start for Ryan Poles on the free agency.
Yeah, you hope it's not a sign of things to come, like, okay, you don't have Larry Ogunjobi. That's not the end of the world, but big picture wise, we're Chicago Bears fans. We're a little bit pessimistic in nature as much as we try to be optimistic. Small picture wise, the Bears don't have Larry Ogunjobi. Fine. That's okay. Larry Ogunjobi wasn't going to be the reason why the Bears win the NFC North next season or why they're competing for a Super Bowl berth in the years to come. Big picture wise, I like that Ryan Poles is looking at the trenches, looking at the interior of the defensive line. He's a former college offensive lineman. You hope that the focus is on the trenches. So small picture wise, I don't want to say it's a disaster. The sky is not falling. They recovered quickly. They signed Justin Jones, a 2-year deal. Like you said, it isn't the big financial commitment that Larry Ogunjobi was, with north of $26 million guaranteed and $40+ million for the maximum value. You get Justin Jones in, certainly a subpar player to Ogunjobi, but a much more tenable financial commitment here. The Bears, they aren't going to win the Super Bowl next year. Sorry, spoiler alert. But you want to position yourselves for 2023, 2024, when you got Fields on year 3 and year 4 of that rookie deal, when you can make a big splash in free agency. So I don't want to say it's a disaster, but it wasn't the best sign of things to come. Signing, your big guy, and then he fails the physical.
Yeah, I like how you're thinking about it because, Jones, 2 years, $12 million. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket for a 25-year-old guy who I'll tell you one thing about who Ryan Poles is bringing in here. And I am get excited by a press conference, which maybe I shouldn't. A lot of people don't listen to what they say, pay attention to what they do. But listening to everybody that's coming in, he's got some very professional, focused, interesting, just a collection of guys who I just like the mindsets of everyone he's bringing in. Now, like my macro big concern with Ogunjobi was like, dude, are you a guy that likes to take big swings? Do you try to be the smartest guy in the room? And that's what Ryan Pace was. I'm going to take a huge swing on Mitch Trubisky and prove everybody wrong that Deshaun Watson and his 28-2 contract, take out all the off-field stuff. But I'm going to pass on that guy for the dude who started 1 year at Carolina and went 8-5 because I'm just that smart. We don't need you to be smartest guy in the room. We need you to make reasonable decisions. And I get it. You need a 3 technique. If healthy, that dude can certainly do it. But you're making him the 9th highest paid defensive tackle in the game, and he's not healthy. Like that's borderline reckless to me. We don't need recklessness in our GM, Ryan Poles. And maybe this is just a nice little learning lesson for you.
Yeah, and we saw the last guy was reckless. I don't mind being aggressive. You like a guy in the draft, you want to move up in the first round to get your guy, go for it. But I think, the downfall with Pace and what we hope isn't the case for his successor is, let's take some calculated risks here. Let's be smart about who we're moving up for. Don't mortgage the future, but if you got to give up something to get something. And, I don't mind trying to swing for a guy that, he's coming off an injury, but when healthy, this guy could be, he could be kind of, what Akeem Hicks was for the last few years. You're probably not going to get him. You lose Bilal Nichols, but hey, you see the upside in Ogunjobi. Maybe you can get him at a little bit of a bargain because he is coming off that injury. Fingers crossed it works out. It doesn't. So it's kind of no harm, no foul for me end of the day.
Yeah, right. Listen, no big deal. It's fine. Just, but I the antenna is just to drop up that are we trying to be genius GM in the future? I'm just going to pay attention to it. Justin Jones, by the way, I don't know if you know who Rahul Ramachandran is on Twitter at @R_Ramachandran1. He's got 40 followers, so you probably don't know him.
Don't know him.
Well, right. He's got a tweet out that excited me. Justin Jones has been my guy since I saw him squat 700 pounds 5 years ago. LOL, welcome. So, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that Rahul actually did see this. So, there we go.
We're scouting the weight rooms now. I love it. We got the combine dudes repping 225 as many times as they can. Yeah, you get a center guard combo block coming at you. That's about 700 pounds of meat coming at you. So Justin Jones, let's do it. Let's see what you can do. But, he's going to be a guy that comes in, tries to earn some reps, limited, financial impact, 2-year deal. I think that's the type of free agent that, Ryan Poles and this Bears staff is going to be looking at here. Get some bodies in here, fill out the roster, and then go into 2023 armed with a bounty of salary cap space. Yep. And then you go out and make your move then.
That was the beauty of the Khalil Mack deal. And you're a huge draft guy. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I did fall in love with Justin Jones over the last 24 hours researching him. So let me just give you a couple more tidbits here. At 2720 spelled out 7, the number Savage on Twitter. If you want to get into your Justin Jones loving, he's now defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears. Hashtag long live 7. Hashtag keep 5 alive. Girl dad. So we got a girl dad. And his tweet coming to the Bears was, "You ever been mauled by a bear? Hashtag bear down." Way to go, dude. We got it's not the most creative, but I liked it. 3rd round pick, the Chargers. People probably know that. 2018 out of NC State. He started 10 plus games across the last 3 years. Last year, best statistical year, 37 tackles, 5 for loss, 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 pass breakup. Listen, I don't know everything about Justin Jones, but it seems like a very reasonable play the Bears are making.
Yeah, just 26 years old too. Hopefully this guy's an ascending player. The best is yet to come here. Get him his biggest role yet. And fingers crossed, maybe this guy's an extension candidate here. He has his best career this year coming up, maybe. And then this could be, a great bargain, the great first signing of Ryan Poles. Turn a potential, really bad red flag here with Ogunjobi failing that physical. Hey, look what we found in Justin Jones here. Maybe this guy's a player for us in the future.
Apparently, by the way, he was going to the Colts. And then Eberflus called him. He's like, Flus called me, which I don't know about this whole Flus thing. Like that's like name brand level Flus. I don't know Flus that well, but Flus calls it, hey, dude, we love the way you go about your work. We want you in Chicago. I'm guessing they probably offered more money than the Colts. But apparently Flus calls this guy at like midnight, and then 9 a.m. the next day, 9:45, he's on a flight to Chicago for a press conference. I don't know how these Bears travel gets an A here. That signing you at midnight, you're on a flight to Chicago 9 hours later. That's pretty good right there.
Can we call that the Flus effect here? I don't know. Maybe we need to make that happen. But from one free agent defensive lineman to another, you get Al-Quadin Muhammad from the Colts, played for Eberflus there. Another younger guy at 26, another 2-year deal. That's the type of move that the Bears have been making so far in the first 2 weeks of free agency. And there's when you go shopping, there's the high price, the luxury brands, the Ralph Lauren shopping. The Bears are going to be shopping for Ralph Lauren this spring. We're going to be at Walmart. Maybe we open up the purse strings a little bit and we go to Target, but we're looking for bargains. We're looking for guys on 1 or 2 year kind of prove it deals. If you could find some gems that are 25, 26, 27, looking for an opportunity here on a team that is rebuilding, reloading the deck. That's the type of guy that the Bears are going to be looking for. And Muhammad, probably a better player than Justin Jones. He's had some production so far in his career. I think this is a guy with the Bears shipped into a 4-3. This is a guy that's probably going to be the starter, one of the DN spots. Hopefully he could be an impact player here and hopefully generate a pass rush, because with no Khalil Mack, the Bears are going to struggle to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's the deal. Like, hey, dude, you want to come here and replace Khalil Mack? Now, granted, Mack played 7 games last year and didn't look like himself since 2018. Quan, they call Al-Quadin Muhammad, 6th round pick, Miami 2017 by the Saints. Career high in tackles last year. Same type of deal here. Like, they're just betting on the come. 48 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. He started 17 games, I guess. So there's that. But they're, low ceiling, high energy player. Like, this is not a star, but somebody who can come in and, I guess, apparently my number one comment from him, he said, nobody wants to win more than Eberflus. Like, really?
I mean, I love the mindset, but that's some, we talk about coach speak all the time. That's some player speak right there, saying what we want to hear. And I love to hear that. I hope he wants to win, but does he want to win more than Bill Belichick? Does he want to win more than Tom Brady? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into that debate, but hey, I appreciate and I respect the mindset, and that type of mindset, I think, is going to endear him to Bears fans.
I just think as we start to get to know these dudes, Poles and Eberflus, like there's something that Eberflus is doing, calling up Justin Jones and then talking to Quan, where people are they're coming out of these conversations saying this shit, right? I mean, like, that, it's kind of amazing.
And I love it, because you talk about the former guy with Matt Nagy. Like, who wanted to come to Chicago to play for Matt Nagy? Nobody over the last 3 years. I mean, who wanted to come play for Ryan Pace? Like, he's given out $30 million to Robert Quinn. Of course, Robert Quinn's going to take that check, and he signs Akeem Hicks. He trades for Khalil Mack. Like, okay, anybody with half a brain would have done those moves too. So this is I think it's a good first impression. I was a little, I don't want to say surprised, but a little, like, maybe one eyebrow was raised when they hired a defensive minded head coach, and you got Justin Fields, and it's an offensive minded league, thinking they're going to go with a head coach with an offensive background. They don't. They bring in the defensive guy, Eberflus. But I kind of like the mindset, and we'll see what kind of team he brings here. But the Bears are certainly in need of a refresh, and fingers crossed it works out, and we're not doing this again in 4 years.
Honestly, there's such a good point by you that, like, did anyone ever say, like, talking to Nagy, I just wanted to play here? Maybe I'm having revisionist history in my mind, but I literally don't remember anyone saying that. I mean, maybe Trubisky was like, I remember him being all hyped that he put the reservation was under James McMahon, but, like, that was just kind of a cute thing. It just feels a little bit different if we're looking for, I don't know, some level of excitement here, because think we all know the Bears aren't winning the Super Bowl here, but like in 2022. But let's go. Future is bright. He's also your guy Quan is also talking about the Eberflus defensive philosophy, which is getting to the ball all 11 guys. So there's his Indy experience with Eberflus, like if you're not going to be flying to the football, trying to get the football loose, get turnovers, you're not going to be on the field. So Bears fans got to love hearing that. That's really the philosophy that Eberflus is going to bring to the defense. It feels very Peanut Punch 2005 Chicago Bears like.
I was going to say, we heard that a lot with Lovie Smith, forced turnovers. That's why the Bears were so good. Or part of the reason. Get that offense in some short fields. We know the offense is already handicapped, working, kind of shorthanded here. So force those turnovers, get the offense back on the field in some short fields. That's what it's going to take. Fingers crossed it works out. Maybe Justin Jones and Quan Muhammad aren't, 5-star signings, but hey, maybe the Windy City could be a 5-star podcast, and we welcome your reviews on the Apple App Store.
Yeah. Hey, this podcast is morphed around, but it is a Chicago Bears podcast now. So if you're enjoying the pod, there's nothing that this pod needs more than your reviews, and Apple reviews are the number one that we need. So get on in there. Tell us what you like or don't like. And if you ask us a question, we 100% guarantee we will read it on the pod. And down the line, we're hoping to have some giveaways as well. So get on in and let's be friends. Let's talk on Twitter. Let's go to lunch. Let's meet at Soldier Field. I live in the South Loop. Let's go. All right. On the Quan Colts thing. Okay, so Eberflus knows him. And then Poles, Kansas City. Who's the first guy in the facility or one of them? Oh, it's Byron Pringle, early mornings. And he's walking past Ryan Poles on his way to breakfast, and now coming to the Bears with a $4 million base and can make $6 million, 42 catches, 568 yards. Yes, he was catching balls from Patrick Mahomes, but like here's one stat that got me excited here. His separation, Patrick Schmidt, one of the tops in the league, like 4 yards away from would-be defenders. He's got a craftiness to him. So again, not a super sexy name, but not a lot of dough, and seems like he knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah, betting on the upside here. Undrafted free agent, missed this whole rookie season because of an injury, but he was a monster last year out of the slot. And certainly there's probably a little bit of inflation playing in that Chiefs offense, playing with Patrick Mahomes, playing in an offense with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, drawing attention from you. So maybe that helps explain some of his great numbers for separation and coming off a great year out of the slot. But you pair him with Darnell Mooney, hey, maybe he could be the X receiver that Mooney won't be the X receiver. Pringle won't be the X, but maybe he's a great slot receiver, brings some speed, some shiftiness, some high percentage passes for Fields. 1-year deal, like you said at the top, fits the kind of spending financial philosophy that Poles is working with here. Maybe there's some regression, but it's a 1-year deal. You got to take these kind of risks here. There's no financial downside to it. Only upside here, Pringle, Mooney, and maybe you find a big stud receiver in the draft.
Yeah, and you need receivers. Like, who's going to catch the ball? So the stat that I was looking for, tied for second in the league last year, averaging 4.1 yards of separation per reception. I don't like to get too nerdy into the numbers here, but that just tells you that he is able to get away from defenders, which makes it easier on quarterbacks. And some of the highlights that I was watching, I didn't watch every Chiefs game. When Mahomes would be on the move, Pringle would figure out, he'd be going one way and then he'd stop himself, come back the other, and he'd be standing there wide open, make himself available, extending plays. And when he's watching highlights of Justin Fields, that's a skill set for him. So if they can get on the same wavelength as far as, okay, when I'm rolling out of the pocket, whichever way, this is what I'm expecting to do, that could be a huge comforting asset for Fields, that's what he needs, right? Like we got to let the guy settle in and actually feel like he's got an offense around him that's going to make him look better.
And some of the benefits that you talk about with Pringle playing in a a legitimate NFL offense with legitimate NFL all-pro talent. Having a great quarterback like Mahomes give you the ball, knowing how to get open, knowing how he can get you open. Maybe some of the same things can be said for the other free agent they signed. Equanimeous St. Brown from the Packers, played in Luke Getsy's offense on the receiving end of passes from Aaron Rodgers. No, he wasn't Devontae Adams, but hey, maybe another guy on a one-year deal, a veteran guy, maybe could come in. You need some receivers. Obviously, Allen Robinson's gone. You need to roll the dice here on some of these guys here. He fits the system. Basically, kind of, let's see what you can do here.
We're right, and we'll get to A-Rob and Khalil Mack in a second here. Just to have a moment of lost Bears, including Pat O'Donnell, which I might actually get emotional on Pat O'Donnell. The dude was nails, but there. I like on one hand that everyone they're bringing in, for the most part, they know Lucas Patrick is going to play center. Another Packer knows Luke Getsy. Same thing with St. Brown. Same thing with Pringle in Kansas City. Same thing with Quan down in Indy. They're picking off guys that they know. Now, is there a chance if you look all around the league that there might be somebody better out there? But I think the answer to that is probably yes. But also, like, you zoning in on dudes in your rebuild that you think are going to be good in that locker room. And Lucas Patrick, I don't know if you watch what he said, but I mean, this dude was hitting all the hits. He was buddies with Rodgers. Then he said, as far as leaving Green Bay, to go from one historic franchise to the historic franchise in the NFL is Chicago. I mean, like, dude, can you say anything better than that, right?
I saw that, and I was like the personal embodiment of like the heart eye emojis. Like, I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is my new favorite player. I need to get his jersey. Like, Sam Mustipher, you sucked so bad last year. Was one of the worst probably centers in the entire NFL, if not the worst. Probably like the 48th best center in the NFL last year. Guy never should have been starting for the Bears last year, but that's how bad Ryan Pace built the offensive line last year to be in that kind of position. But I saw that. I was like, I got to get his jersey. This is my guy now. And I saw that. I was like, okay, way to fan the flames here in this Bears-Packers rivalry. We know it's been tough on the field the last few years, but man, I have been enjoying the drama up north over the last few months, even going back to last summer with the whole Rodgers uncertainty. Watching the Packers lose in the playoffs to the 49ers, that may have been some of the most fun I've had watching football in a long time. The Devontae Adams trade, I'm loving every bit of it, and that was kind of just like the icing on the cake, so to speak.
Yeah, the one more from Patrick. I've been on the winning side. I'm going to stay on the winning side. Okay, buddy.
Love it. I'm going to get two of his jerseys. I'm getting the home and away. Bears beat Green Bay. I got to get the alternate jersey too.
I think that's got to be our first giveaway. I mean, we're not that we're there yet, but like, I think that's our giveaway, man. Lucas
maybe after the Justin Fields navy or white or the alternate, maybe we mix it a Tim Patrick jersey. I love it.
I mean, if he's not winning over fans, he should be. The dude's just coming in here saying all the right things. And by the way, he was buddies with Aaron Rodgers, which is fine. I think it's like, hey, Justin, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but I did play with Aaron, and one of the things that he did that was really helpful was this. You might want to consider it. Like, I like the fact that he has at least some knowledge along those lines that he can pass along. I mean, I don't know how this actually goes in a locker room, but I think that could be worth like at least a 2% thing one day that he play with Rodgers and can influence whatever he learned with Fields.
Yeah, and kind of one big bow around this like free agent group so far. Guys from winning organizations, Lucas Patrick, we talk about, Equanimeous St. Brown from the Packers, Pringle from the Chiefs, the two guys from the Colts. I love it. We didn't talk about Nick Morrow, the inside linebacker. The linebacker is going to play next to Roquan Smith. The Raiders were good last year. They've kind of gone through the ringer a little bit, kind of similar to the Bears. They've been down. They're a playoff team last year. So, there's some upside there. And I love what they're going to bring from an intangible standpoint. Being around winning locker rooms, winning organizations, that's what the Bears need.
I just got to say one thing about Morrow. Here's a guy we should also give away his jersey because I am I am rooting for this guy. First NFL player ever from Greenville University. Never heard of it. It's down by St. Louis. Was not recruited by anyone in high school, except he got an opportunity from Lamar Bell, who was the coach down there. 3 years an offensive lineman, and then they switch him to the defensive side of the ball. And he's got dudes down in Greenville now who, 4 hours from Chicago, who are rooting for him. This is the total climber, man. I 4-star recruits are sweet. Yep. 5 stars, whatever they're called nowadays. You're the college football guy, but like that, a dude like that who made it, easy to root for.
Yeah, and I think those are the guys that we kind of rally around, the underdog guys. Division III guy. Wow, offensive line conversion. I love that. Played some special teams early in his career. Settled in 29 starts over the last few years with the Raiders. And he ran a 40 that was like identical to Roquan Smith at the combine. So that kind of, shows you the type of speed and athleticism that he's bringing to this new 4-3 defense. So fingers crossed. I hope this guy can make it. Another 26-year-old guy on a 1-year deal here. Poles is just rolling the dice here on athletic guys, younger guys. And I think some of these guys are going to stick and get a second contract with the Bears.
Yeah, character guys. Okay, Ryan, I'm in, man. We'll forget about the Larry Ogunjobi. Do what you're doing. It's, by the way, these are the easy plays, right? Not huge salary commitments. Looking for character is a smart thing to do. Not genius, but good job. Makes sense. I'm with you. When rubber hits the road, when you actually, have to make draft picks, and then when you throw down the big money, and it's going to have a huge impact. So we're not quite there yet, but taking down the roster, trading Mack, and everything else they did as far as resetting the team, Poles, you're doing fine. Speaking of Mack, who are you going to miss more, A-Rob and congratulations to Allen Robinson and Khalil Mack, I guess. But who will you miss more between those two?
Yeah, I wish I could say I was surprised that Khalil Mack is no longer on the Bears. It really stinks that, he was hurt last year, and really he hasn't been the type of player that we all envisioned when the trade went down. That first year was such a rousing success, like the euphoria from the moment of the trade went down, the first game against Green Bay, the instant impact he had, the Bears get to the playoffs. And since then, it's been a rough few years since, but, all the best to him. Hopefully the Bears can, make the best use out of the draft picks they got in return. I know I was among the many Bears fans that were hoping to get a little bit more from him. But you got to think that, Poles got the best deal he could get for a depreciating asset. But for me, I'm probably going to miss Khalil Mack more because I think it's harder to find guys like Khalil Mack. I think you could find guys like Allen Robinson in the draft, including this year, all the time in free agency. But Khalil Mack, those guys are few and far between. So I'm definitely going to miss Khalil Mack a little bit more. Allen Robinson, the old line that Musa Muhammad said about, Chicago's where receivers come to die. Well, he was right about that with Allen Robinson.
I mean, the dude was great until he wasn't this past year. And I mean, some of the catches he made were not a good ball thrown by Trubisky. He's like contorting himself around the sideline. The ball's like 1 inch off the freaking ground, and he's somehow getting both hands underneath it and catch on. Like, I don't remember many Bears receivers doing that. This year was just off. I'm going to miss A-Rob. I don't know. Maybe it's the softness in me that I like wide receivers, but his comment, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the Chicago Bears organization. It was truly an honor to play for your storied franchise. Are you lying here? Do you mean this? But this is what he wrote. To the McCaskey family, coaches, and front office staff, thank you for your belief in me, and thank you for the opportunity. To the brothers I gained in the locker room, it was an honor to suit up and play beside you. The bond we have is forever, and I look forward to seeing all of the success in store for you. I'll stop it right there. But A-Rob, man, he went out. It was a rough year, but I think he went out in a class way.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I want to condense that and translate that a little bit more, thanks for paying me. Thanks for the millions. I love living in the city. I love playing with, Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks and Eddie Jackson and those guys. But you guys did me no favors playing with Mitchell Trubisky and Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. Like that was, the Bears set him up for failure here over the last couple of years. And he was a special talent, and the LA Rams got a special player. And I think he's going to have a great rebound year for them. But, things didn't work out. We wish him well. I was pumped when they did sign him a couple of years ago. Just didn't end as we had hoped, but I'm going to miss them both. I'm just going to miss Mack a little bit more.
LA.
Yep.
I don't like, you just made me think about like going through the quarterbacks. I don't get why he did not ever really get on the same wavelength with Fields. You would have thought those two would have been, super successful together, or at least way more than they were, but it never worked. I blame you, Matt Nagy. You did not set up the offense for Fields to be successful, and it screwed A-Rod in the process.
Yeah, last year was just, I want to wipe it from my memory. I want to get like the Men in Black, like laser gun thing and just wipe it from my brain, because that was rough. Like, Justin Fields, he showed the flashes. He wasn't perfect by any stretch. Allen Robinson, I don't want to say he quit on the Bears, but it kind of felt that way. There was a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. Some questionable decisions from the roster standpoint, especially the coaching. But hey, we got 2 eyes in front of our head, none in the back. So hopefully let's look forward to a positive future.
I'm with you, brother. Let's go. We're moving forward. That the days of Nagy and Brian Pace bothered me more than Nagy, but it's in the past. It's the last time we mentioned it, at least on this podcast. All right. Let's look at the division. Green Bay. Hello. I'm assuming we both think that they're still the class of the division, but Devontae leaving is interesting. The Packers, you got Aaron, but I do wonder, like, I think they're still the class because the division sucks, but I don't think that they feel more like a 10, 11, 12 win team than 14, 13, 14, 15 dominant Green Bay right now.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't say they're a super, in the top 2 or 3 mix to win the Super Bowl next year. Things can change, obviously, quickly. We'll see what they do in the draft. But you take out Devontae Adams from that team and some of the roster cuts they had to make. Zadarius Smith, he's gone. We'll see what they can do. They're still the class of the NFC North because the Vikings aren't that great. The Bears are rebuilding, and the Lions are the Lions. But they still have Aaron Rodgers coming back. He's the best player in the division, coming off back-to-back MVPs. Even if he regresses from his MVP form, he's still one of the 5 or 6 best players in the NFL. So they're still the cream of the crop of the NFC North. Maybe a 10 or 11 win team and not that 13 or 14 caliber team, but still the team to beat in the North.
I mean, if they had a punter, they would have beaten the Niners, and they went and got Pat O'Donnell, right? As bad as Aaron Rodgers was in that game, Pat O'Donnell, by the way, had his own Instagram post as my time.
Saw that.
But so like the dude, nobody ever talked about him, but maybe because I interviewed him once at Hallis Hall, and this was way back in the day, pre-pandemic, but he was such a nice guy and just the dude did his job. I'm like, why do we got to lose Pat O'Donnell, man? Why do we got to lose him to the Packers?
Draft him out of Miami. He was, who drafts a punter? And then, he was good. I think Bears fans, we love our punters, Brad Maynard, Todd Sauerbrunn wasn't likable, but he was kind of good. But yeah, sometimes the punter was the best player on the team, just because the quarterback sucked so hard. But yeah, I mean, speaking of Pat O'Donnell and that thank you note, who is like the graphic designer? Because it's like the same template, the same font that Allen Robinson had. Like, who's the guy in Chicago that's just like mass printing? We see these all the time with like college kids and they're recruiting letters and commitments and all this stuff. Like, that is like a huge industry now on social media. Like the thank you note, the commitment note, the I've signed note. The business is booming.
Maybe we need that dude to promote the pod. Like,
maybe
Dear Chicago.
Yeah, Dear Chicago. And signed Carmen Schmidt.
It's Carmen Schmidt. And like at the end of it, this guy goes, all the best. This is a class move, by the way. Pat, Shelby, and Palmer O'Donnell. We could do Carm, Schmidt, and I don't know, Zach Best. Let's go to the top of the food chain or something.
I was going to thank our producers, maybe, the guys behind the scenes making this happen.
Carm, Schmidt, Richard, Hunter, Michael and everybody else in the world of Fansided.
All our soon-to-be future advertisers and marketers. I mean, we got to lock down some. There's some great pizza places, some great breweries. I'm sure we could make something happen here in the weeks and months to come.
Let's go. The advertising space available on the Windy City Chicago Bears podcast. Plenty of opportunity. Jump on in before.
Reach out on Twitter.
Yeah. Hit us up.
DMs are open.
At Patrick A. Schmidt at the Carm. We're here for you. Listen, you can go on to an advanced podcast. You can go with some of the established gigs out there, but to be on the ground floor like the Bears are right now and to see that come to fruition, price is right. And then the payoff is, you get to show that you were an advertising genius. A lot of opportunity there. Hey, are we better than the Detroit Lions right now if you had to bet on it?
I tell you what, yes. Short answer, yes, we are still better than the Lions. Could the Bears and the Lions split their 2 games next year? Yeah, they probably could. We've seen the Lions play the Bears pretty close over the last couple of years, but I think the Bears are definitely better than the Lions. The Lions are still the Lions, and that's just ingrained in their DNA. We think things have been bad for the Bears, but things haven't been Lions level bad. So, we got that going for us, I guess, which is nice.
We do probably say it every time at this year. Watch out for the Lions, man. This year, the Lions are going to be better.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know why it would be. I liked the Fighting Caldwell's squeezing everything out of what they did last year. He actually, it was so
Dan
rough.
Quinn. No, not Dan Quinn. Dan Campbell.
Right.
Yeah.
What did I call him? The Caldwell.
Jim Caldwell. Yeah. Jim Caldwell, I thought was going to get the Bears job for a while. That's what you're thinking, probably.
Yeah. Listen. It was every week they were losing tight games, and you would think that the Campbell kneecaps were going to give up, and they never did.
No.
And they ended up getting some wins. So listen. Again, they're the Detroit Lions, so we'll leave it alone. But I do wonder, like, if things go south this year, you've had a lot of subtractions, and if you got things wrong and Fields doesn't develop, it could be a really ugly year. I don't think it's going to go that way. I actually think they're going to be surprisingly like they're going to be like the punchy Bears. I think just judging by the amount of motivation that seems to be in that building right now, it feels like there's just a positive flow going on. Who else, by the way, Patrick, do you have anyone you're looking at free agent wise that the Bears might be looking at here as they round out the roster? Anybody excite you?
Yeah, I think a lot of me and a lot of Bears fans would love to see Teron Armstead sign with the Bears, the Saints left tackle. I think it would be a great addition because you don't know what you're going to get out of Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum at the tackle positions. But like we said at the very top of the show, that's not going to fit the financial profile that Ryan Poles is looking at. Teron Armstead's going to want multiple years at big money, and I don't think it's going to fit in the Bears' financial plan. So he'd be a great guy, but if he was on the market next year, I think it would be a perfect fit. So I don't think Teron Armstead really fits what the Bears are going to be doing. Not to drop specific names, but I think guys on 1 or 2 year deals for very modest salaries, limited guaranteed money, but guys that are in that 26, 27-year-old, age, I think that's the type of player that the Bears are going to try and fit and attract. See if there's any upside there. Maybe they have limited starting experience. Maybe they were, reserves at their current jobs or past organizations. And maybe they're looking for a chance to start here with a team that's kind of resetting the deck here. So that's the type of free agent profile that I think the Bears are going to be looking at.
Yeah, listen, there's guys out there like Darrell Williams, who was with the Bills. There's, Eric Fisher is old. If you're looking for a veteran on the offensive line, nothing really. And I wouldn't have been excited by like any of the names that they've signed so far, but then you get them in here and you hear them and you see the connection. It kind of remotely gets me excited. Anybody want to bring back Kyle Fuller? Remember when we were freaking out when he left? Kyle Fuller's sitting out there. I don't know. You could use a little help in the secondary. Wouldn't be a terrible idea. But that's probably maybe too big of a past history Bear. I don't know. Where do you think? And then I'm wondering, like, what happens to our guys like Eddie Goldman and Andy Dalton? Where do these guys turn up? Right.
I honestly, I don't care. Like, it's like they're going like Eddie Goldman figured he's probably going to be a cap casualty. The guy sat out the COVID year. Like, okay, I understand. Then he didn't report for the voluntary camp this past season. So I was kind of over it. I wish the Bears were able to bring back Bilal Nichols.
Me too.
You know, that's Andy Dalton. Like, see ya. You know, you need me to drive you to the airport. Fine. Like, let's do it. Hop in. You know, I got an SUV. We got plenty of room for your luggage. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering. Well, the Bears probably would have made these moves now at this point, but I was kind of wondering maybe they move out Eddie Jackson. Just kind of seeing, you know, where maybe some savings could be had on this roster, but I think maybe some people are thinking, hey, maybe Akeem Hicks comes back.
Yeah.
I'm a little less optimistic about that. I don't think he's going to want to come back. I think, you know, I don't want to say the bridges are burned there, but I think he's looking for a new organization, new start, and with an organization that has a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl, or at least compete for one. And, you know, as much as he may love Chicago, that's not happening this year.
That's where he should be. Be a veteran on a team that's got a chance to do it. I'll give you two incredibly progressive moves the Bears could make. One, Carl Nassib should be on an NFL roster. The Raiders cut him, and I do wonder how much that is tied to his personal life off the field. He wasn't great, but he had a 3-year, $25 million deal with the Raiders last year. Then he came out publicly, which was incredibly courageous, and then now he's not on a roster. I do 1.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Could be a rotational DN for the Bears. I wouldn't hate that. And the other one is, look, somebody want Nick Foles, because I'm down with trading Nick. And there's that guy Colin Kaepernick who's out working out all over the place. That dude belongs on some NFL football team. Why not make it you, Chicago Bears? And I like Nick as a backup, but you're paying him a lot of dough. And if you could actually get something for Foles and get rid of him, I'd be down. Just, you know, for Nick to go somewhere else too, because you know, I'm looking Seattle. Hey, Pete Carroll, you've talked about this for 17 years. Just sign Colin. Let him be back in the league and be done with that whole story and let it end in a positive way.
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen with any team, but that would be a nice backup that you would want for Justin Fields, somebody that plays a similar style of game, right, and would do similar things within that offense. But realistically speaking, like, it's just not going to happen. Like, it would have happened by now. You know, it sucks, but it's just not going to happen. You know, no matter how many Twitter clips he puts out there. But Nick Foles, that's an interesting one. Between him and Robert Quinn and Eddie Jackson. Yeah. Well, what kind of draft picks can we get? Can we get a 3 for Robert Quinn? Can we get a 4 for Eddie Jackson? Like, can we get a 7 for Nick Foles? Like, it's funny because, like, the Browns have Baker Mayfield, and like they can't give him away. This guy was the number 1 overall pick 4 years ago. Like, he's not the worst quarterback in the world, but he's certainly way better than Nick Foles and the Andy Daltons and, you know, all the other like backup quarterback type players that are going to be around. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I think the next big moves are going to be in the draft. Yeah, I mean, look, Chancellor Nick's going to be here. All right. You're the draft expert, and listen, we're going to be doing a ton of draft coverage leading up to when the Bears have their 2 second-round picks right now, pick 39 and 48 with the Mack deal, and then you got a 3rd-round pick, 71 overall, 2 fifths, 148 and 150, and then a 6th-rounder, 185. They don't have their 7th because of the Anthony Miller trade, but that gives them an extra 5th. So give us a swing as to one of the picks today, who the Bears should be looking at. Well, I always go with the draft the best player available. Like, that's it. That's a mantra. But I would go a step further here, and I'd say draft the best receiver available with that first of the 2 second-round picks. I'm going to be looking at wide receiver and then probably offensive line, maybe a guard or a tackle, depending on how they view Tevin Jenkins and his future, whether it's, you know, at the tackle or inside. But David Bell, wide receiver out of Purdue. He's a guy I really like. Outplayed the Ohio State receivers, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, who, hey, I'd love to have one or both of those guys too. Reunited with Justin Fields, but both those guys are going to be in the top 20, top 25 picks. Long gone before the Bears are on the clock, but David Bell is a guy I think would be available in the top 40, top 45 picks. And we talk about Allen Robinson at the top. He's a guy that patterned his game after Allen Robinson. So if you get a 21-year-old version of Allen Robinson, you get him for 4 or 5 years. I think that's a guy that you pair with Justin Fields. Let them establish some early chemistry. Let's see what they could do over the next 3, 4, 5+ years together. He's a guy I think has some really great ball skills, really talented. He's not going to, run out of the roof. He's not going to be, the AJ Green or Julio Jones in their prime, but I think this guy is a really good player. And we see great receivers come out of the second round all the time, like Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Juju Smith-Schuster, DK Metcalf, on and on and on. So I think the Bears are going to be able to get themselves a really good receiver. If not David Bell, Christian Watson is another guy, smaller school guy, North Dakota State. But this dude is a monster, 6'4", a little over 200 pounds, ran a sub 4.4 at the combine. Didn't have the ridiculous production you would love to see out of a kind of a freak show like that, especially on the lower level. But you see the tools, you see the skill set. You pair him with Justin Fields, you get your big stud X receiver. You got Darnell Mooney, you get Byron Pringle, the little guys, running underneath in the crossing routes and operating out of the slot. He's another guy, maybe the first of the second round picks or the second of the twos. I think those are probably the top 2 wide receiver candidates I'm looking at. But the Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson fantasy of reuniting Fields with one of those 2 Ohio State guys, I don't think it's going to happen, especially after they both tore it up at the combine. And, I've been burned in the past trading up into the draft and sacrificing all these draft picks. Bears need to hoard all these draft picks and get more than they have. So I hope Ryan Poles doesn't, give up both these 2s and any future picks to move up to get one of those 2 guys. So that's how I'm looking at Bell and Wilson. And fingers crossed that it might be one of the 2 guys that the Bears take.
I love it. I'm sold. Fingers crossed. And nail on the head. Don't do the we said we weren't going to mention him. Yeah. Don't do the trade up thing, man. You take your swings. Best player available. Trust your scouts. Trust yourself. Go get the best receiver that's on the board when you're at least for one of these picks. I wouldn't even mind if they did it double time. Of course, they need help in so many places.
And good. And where they're picking, guys fall like there's going to be guys that are available, like Tevin Jenkins last year. Like, oh, he was mocked to the Bears at 20th, and they got him, at the top of the second round. Guys fall all the time in the draft. This is one of the guys from Alabama, John Mechie. He's coming off a torn ACL at the end of the year. First round talent. Maybe he's a guy that slips out of the top 32, and he's a guy that's there for the Bears. So that stand pat, maybe move back from one of those 2s and get some more picks. But I think wide receiver has to be the focus, and then secondarily guard or tackle, and just keep getting bodies, because above all else, it's all about Justin Fields. Like, if the Bears are going to be good, it's because Justin Fields is great. If Justin Fields is not great, the Bears are going to suck. It really all comes down to that.
Yep. Give him every chance to be good. I know you're going to do that, Ryan Poles. And by the way, you too, Matt Eberflus. I know you're the defensive guy, but just get out of the way and let Getsy do what he does, and let's get this offense cooking. All right, Schmidt, let's wrap up. Anything going on off the field, off the Schmidt life that you'd like to let our listeners know as we wrap up our first ever DeWindy City Chicago Bears pod?
Yeah, I've been rewatching some of my favorite shows here over the last few months or even years here. It started kind of during the pandemic and whatever, but going through some old favorites, and I'm currently rewatching Better Call Saul. The newest season comes out in a few weeks, so I've been revisiting that. I put it on when I'm riding the exercise bike, and I'm just loving it, diving back in. It's going to be about 2 years in between episodes when the new season comes up. So outside of sports, outside of the Bears, outside of the professional life, I'm diving myself into the Better Call Saul universe.
Okay. Congratulations. Love a rewatch. Learn different things on the back end. Get you excited for a season. Like it. I have not seen enough of Better Call Saul to to really speak intelligently, but maybe I'll put it on the list here. I am intelligent, or at least able to speak well enough on a Sunday night extravaganza yesterday at the Thai body massage place down the street. Ooh. And let me tell you, I haven't seen you in the office in a long time, Patrick, but I was twisted and contorted and bent and broken in more ways than I ever have been since the last time I was there. And every time I go in there, it's amazing. So those of you who are a little bit perhaps older and stiffer and can't get around, it's not going to feel good, but I recommend that investment in yourself. You walk out of there and you feel like you can run a 4.340. It's amazing what they do. So Chicago Avenue in the city, check it out. That's my recommendation for those who made it this far on the pod. It was amazing.
Good PR for them. I love it.
Yeah. Could be our first sponsor.
Good day.
Let's go.
Do they do the shiatsu and the deep tissue? Do they have like the nice soothing music playing while you're getting your hamstrings worked on?
There was no music. There was no table. They had like an air mattress on the ground, but somehow it worked. And like lock your hands behind your back, and then all of a sudden, like I'm being pulled in ways. I'm like I'm screaming out. Then I walked out of there. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Wow. You'll be more flexible than the Jesse White tumblers here with a few more sessions.
There we go. Bring them out. Hey, Apple reviews are huge. So if you made it this far, please leave a review and ask any Bears question. We will read it on our next pod, which is next Monday, 5:00 Central Time. That's when we record. We'll be doing this on YouTube as well, which this today was not live with you, but we will hopefully next week be live on the YouTube. But anybody who checked it out on YouTube and or wherever you've made history, you're a part of the first ever DeWindy City Chicago Bears pod. Schmidt, good to be with you, brother. Looking forward to it.
Good to be with you.
We'll see you next week. Bear down.
Go Bears.